Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the 7 o'clock hour, 7:09 in the morning, News Radio 830 KHVH. And welcome to this edition of the SHOPO Hour. Once again, as I said earlier, we got the band back together, and it's a delight. SHOPO President Bobby Cavaco, Vice President Steve Keogh, and swimsuit model Mark Criccio are all in studio on this Aloha Monday morning. Gentlemen, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Rick. Morning, Steve.
You threw us off with the Mark comment. I wonder what.
I wonder my swimsuit.
I wonder who they're marketing to, Rick, by putting Mark in a swimsuit. I wonder
Speedo,
who's the
baby, Speedo.
Who are they marketing?
I think primarily blind people would be.
That'll work.
Gentlemen, I'm so glad we're here. Let's get caught up with each and every one with a good morning. Bobby, how you doing?
Good morning there, Rick. Great to be here on this. Is it?
It's the seventh favorite day today, brother.
Well, it's my most favorite day. Indigenous Peoples Day, Columbus Day.
It is Columbus Day. And proud, I'll say Columbus Day. Come on now. Yeah.
Shout out to all the Italians. Yep. Just thought I'd throw that in there, Rick. Sorry, I just yeah.
Leave the gun, take the cannolis.
I don't. I thought I heard the theme from The Godfather in the background, but Brother Steve, good morning to you.
Rick, good morning, boys. Always happy and grateful to be here, Rick, with you and your listeners. Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. Brother Mark?
Yeah, Rick, Bobby, Steve, good morning. Happy Monday.
Sorry, no, I need you. Your mic's okay. No, it's okay, but I need you to point it directly.
All right, like this. Okay, happy Monday, everyone.
See,
okay.
Does that sound better? All right, you sound more like Adele than before.
Okay.
And there we have it. All right, gentlemen, let's get back right to the point. There's a news report that aired on Hawaii News Now of a recent vote by membership in regard to the executive board of SHOPO. Would you mind walking us through the story?
So, Rick, we had entertained in August, around that time, the board entertained taking a look at our monthly allowances for board members. We made a change to do an increase, and a portion of the membership spoke up and didn't agree with that decision. So the board listened to them and put it out for a statewide vote. 38% of the entire membership participated, and we gave them three options. One was to keep it status quo, and then option 2 and 3 were different increases. Different amounts, and the membership decided for option 1 to keep it status quo. So that decision came back, and the board adopted that allowance, option 1, to keep it status quo, and then we move forward from here.
The report that I heard was that 85% of the membership voted, which is definitely higher than our election numbers here in our state. Is that an accurate figure?
So it's not 85% participation. The percentage of participation was 38% of the membership casted a ballot.
Okay.
But out of that 38%, 85% of those that casted the ballot decided for option 1.
Gotcha. Steve, these numbers, they mean to you?
I know it might shock you that Hawaii News Now got it wrong. I didn't see the report, but yeah, I heard something about they reported it as 85% participated. As Bobby shared with you, we had 38%, 39% turnout. And we're just we move forward. The members have spoken, so we're gonna keep grinding it out, keep working, and on to the next.
Brother Mark, what does this story? What does it mean to you as a retired?
It's since the beginning of time when I've been in, you got to participate. So if you're going to complain, then go do something about it. I mean, how did you guys do the voting? Was it like online, or was it easy to vote?
E-vote, yeah.
Right. So easy
everybody,
to vote.
everybody
I mean, not a
accesses
problem
it.
to go vote. So only 30-something% vote. I mean, so don't bitch and moan about your union if you don't vote or if you don't take action or participation, right? Kind of the same with our voting base in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
obviously, Rick, we wish there was more robust participation, and maybe as leadership we can work to further that. 61% were silent, and clearly there's an opportunity there for improvement. And as a state board, we want to look into hopefully improving that.
We talk about next step. Next step is to continue leadership representation. Just curiosity, your terms, the duration of the term of as an officer, how long is that, and is there an election for a board? When is the next one?
So the next election for the state board directors it will be in 2025, at the ending of 2025. So it's 4-year terms.
Okay.
There are 4 other county boards for each island or each county. There's a Kauai board, a Maui board, Honolulu board, and a Hawaii board, which sits beneath the state board. Those county boards have elections every 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you for sharing. I know that you were very transparent with us in the very beginning when the whole process began. We now have a conclusion, and we do move on. The last time we were together, the KPD survey, we went over some rudimentary information, however, included membership at KPD with SHOPO. Has there been anything to update, report, movement, responses that we could share today?
So our chapter chair, Kenny Nagahisa from Kauai, had basically informed us that the chief put out a second video saying that he was going to meet with every single member of Kauai PD to get their input and feedback on, moving forward with the department and how he and his command staff, I guess, can do better. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the situation right now. The police commission on Kauai had sent email communication inviting us to their police commission meeting at the end of this month. I believe it's the 28th. And then make the presentation on the survey results. So Kenny and his vice chair will do that at the end of the month. The commission did articulate that the sunshine law, and that's why they couldn't come. But our position, and we reiterated to them that multiple attempts were made to invite each commissioner individually to get the results, not as a commission, as a whole. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what kind of advice they're getting from their legal counsel, from the boards and commissions up there, but clearly there's a disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Steve, thoughts?
Since we put out the survey, we're pleased that it's being viewed and it's being shared. Our biggest issue was, how do we share this with leadership? How do we share this with leaders within the community? How do we share it with the public? And so far, we're pleased. The boys over there on Kauai are doing a good job having people view it. And again, it's going to be a team effort. I'm really happy to hear that the police commission is willing to meet with Bobby T and Kenny and get involved in this, because at the end of the day, it's those individuals, it's that body that oversee the police chief. And if anybody can make suggestions, or rather than make suggestions, how about this? Ask the appropriate questions to maybe inspire change or to have things done differently. The police commission are the individuals that can do that. So we're happy that hopefully we'll have their ear and we can share with them, what we found.
I want to jump in real quick and then go to Mark in a moment, because in June of this year, there was a survey reported on for Maui PD. And one of the descriptive headlines was it had to do about morale, sinking morale, I think, was the phrase. In the amount of time since then, has there been any movement with MPD, from either side?
Yeah, things are getting better on Maui with communication, at least with the chief. I've met with him on several occasions, and we're urging the chief to have a labor management meeting. So that would be SHOPO himself and his command staff, and then city HR, and then somebody from Office of Collective Bargaining, and then it's in that venue where you discuss all of those issues with Maui, things that the chief wants to do which would require it's a meet and agree where all sides have to agree on the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we're urging for that kind of venue because since he's become chief, we haven't had one. So we're really urging that so that we can, all these issues with the department, hopefully we can resolve them, come to the table, talk about it, and negotiate ways to solve all of the issues. But that's what in fact, as of this morning, we're sending him correspondence to try and set that up and push that forward, because that's what's going to help, I think, move the department forward. Yeah.
Before we take our break, Mark, what the surveys during your time, were surveys presented? What was the feedback like? Participation from SHOPO members and your reactions to the progress that you've heard so far?
Well, like what I discussed last show, use it as a tool to improve, right? It might not look good in one perspective, but use constructive criticism and make a positive out of it. So we did one survey when I was in the chief's office, and it was a small survey. I personally went to annual recall trainings, right? So we had an audience, and then I would hand out these papers. I made sure I got everyone back. So I had 100% participation from people that were in those classes. So the classes are like 60, give or take. So we did about 4 or 5 of those classes, and then we did some results. And results are pretty positive. And then, but you don't want to look at just positives. You want to look at the negatives and improve on it. So, but overall, it worked out pretty well.
Were the suggestions for improvements, were they embraced? Were there actual steps to resolve some of the concerns people had?
You don't remember, but
Okay.
it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But I got to say though, for the survey was a lot of positives. So I think the main thing the chief was looking at is how was her command staff looked at by the rank and file, and I got to say we were in the above the 85 percentile, which was pretty good, considering.
Right.
So,
Brother Steve, put a cap on this topic for us, and we'll move on with our next session.
Sure. I think when it comes to surveys, we want to give those that can make change possible time to review it. But in my experience, kind of like with big government, things seem to turn very slow. And the slower they turn, that can affect morale. So things like equipment and work schedules and whatnot, if there's things that the administration can do to make the quality of life of the officers that put the uniform on every day better, then it behooves everybody that once you can come together and make a decision, let's implement it and move forward.
In the decision-making process, maybe speculative because we're not, but is there so much vetting, review, consultations, then repeating the process again to insulate whoever the decision-making body or individual is?
Obviously, due diligence and putting everything together is important. But when you initially said that, the first thing I said is, yes, not so much to protect the decision makers. I think everybody at a higher level wants to have an opinion and a say, kind of like too many cooks in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So somebody needs to make a decision and let's run with it. And again, the concerns need to be taken seriously. When something's important to someone, they're going to make time to do it. So that's the way we come from. If it's important to you, you're going to make time to do it. If it's not important to you, you're going to kind of put it off on the side.
So again, I'm just, for us as lay people, we're under the impression that when you're the head of a department, whether it's a HPD, MPD, KPD, or other departments in all walks of life, there's a sense that there's a unilateral decision-making process that can be undertaken because you have the title. But it seems that there can be different forms of governing, if you will, or administering said departments. Some will take this tack, some will take that tack, some will do another. And so just trying to understand why there needs to be so much time. For instance, work schedule, the requests of updated uniforms and things that have been on the table in my short period of time of a year. I mean, a year from when I first heard this in online conversations and what you were hoping to achieve for your members. So I'm not, trying to it be critical. It's
No,
just
Rick.
trying to understand process.
Rick, I think that's an accurate recap. The time frames, everything you just said was accurate. You're stating some factual stuff. We've been talking about uniforms for a year. Actually, since we've come on your
Right.
show, but prior to that, it's been
Yeah.
pretty substantial. That the uniforms related to Honolulu PD specifically. Yeah.
Right. Tell us about the SHOPO website.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Rick. So, SHOPOHawaii.org. Again, that's SHOPOHawaii.org. You can reach us there, and then that'll segue to other platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
We're going to take a very short break. It's already 7:25. What happened, gentlemen? 7:25 in the morning. We're going to make good use of the remainder of our time. Stand by. There's more. It is the SHOPO Hour on KHVH. Welcome back, everybody. Boy, that was really short. Thank you for that, John Matthews. 7:26. A few minutes to go before the bottom of the hour. I want to talk Waikiki in a moment, but this is a story that we've been tracking. Today, we're going to start, and I'm talking about myself and our listeners, en masse, talking with the Senate President and the House Speaker, because the convening of a special session has not been announced, has not convened. There's been nothing but inertia, no movement, no comms, nothing in trying to resolve the Supreme Court decisions case. Nothing that I have been apprised of. And I got feelers out all over town, and it's like, shh, nothing. I'd like to check in with you once again, the importance of this topic, and have you, as SHOPO, received any feedback in your petitions and outreach as well?
We haven't really had much feedback, but I think there's a lot of, finger pointing going on with this particular issue, when actually, clearly, the legislature could come to a session and fix this right away. Because clearly, the decision made by the Supreme Court is the right decision. And for our members, our 3 members that went through it, I mean, that's the same situation in which this Supreme Court decision actually, that situation fit perfect into what the ruling is. So I think moving forward, in order to fix it, the legislature's, it's not, okay, well, the judiciary made a decision, now you guys find out how to fix it. It's, look, we're the ones that make the laws. Okay, let's call a special session and let's fix it, and then, move on. But I don't see any urgency, especially not at the governor's office.
Zero.
And I don't know if that's because, in a couple months he's on his way out, or then if not, then I don't know what else to say.
I'm flummoxed. I'm going to share one thing because I'm going to cover it a little bit later on this morning. From a source, it was provided to me that, on example, last Monday, 5 convicted felons were released from prison. 3 murder, 2 rape, 1 armed robbery. Monday, a week ago. That's the source I have. And that's one day. We have got to have a handle on exactly what the releases have been, who they've been, where they're going, because according to other attorneys I've spoken to, once they're out, you can't track them, you can't keep an eye, you can't, whatever. That's what the overturning does.
I'll tell you when the outcry will come. The outcry will come,
yeah.
And you know where I'm going with this, right? That's when the outcry will come. When one of these people that were released, it's reoffends, either takes somebody's life or causes serious damage, then you'll get the outcry from the public. Something like the murder in front of the Kapolei police station that we had earlier this year. Some unfortunate circumstance, that's when the outcry from the public will come. And by that time, it's too late. Now you have another victim.
Right. We have a bottom of the hour break. Final thoughts on this. We'll move on after the bottom of the hour news. Steve, Mark?
It's something the rank and file see every single day. Okay. These are egregious felonies that we see being released, right? But we see this, besides the misdemeanors. It happens every single day. The public don't realize this. With the judges and the prosecutors just dumping cases and letting these people go. And then the prison letting them go too, right? So it's like the rank and file seat is like, what is this guy still doing out, right? I just hooked him up for a felony a few days ago and he's out. It happens all the time. This public does not know what's being released out there.
The question that I'm asking myself is, who benefits from a special session not being held? Why the delay? Why the silence? Who's behind the scenes? What else is going on? What's the bigger picture? Does leadership think that these individuals were somehow wrongfully, that the process was flawed and they're going down this road? Well, if we can't get bail reform, we're going to do this a different way. You know what I'm saying, Rick?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
brother,
what's
gone through
happening?
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
what's happening here?
Absolutely.
What's happening here? Because it seems like, there's a call to action that's not being heard. So you ask yourself, okay, well, why is that being ignored? Why is that falling on deaf ears? And for me, just listening to all this, I'm thinking, is that because people are pissed that bail reform got shut down, and the way to kind of get back is the people that were in jail, well, now they're out, and it's just who benefits, what's the agenda, and why is this falling on deaf ears?
There is no doubt that there are elements within this city, within this state, within this country that believe that imprisonment as a consequence of your actions is wrong. Period.
Yeah.
Now you have our president who is stating federal offenses regarding marijuana. Out of here. Pardon, get out of here, no problem, done. And I think, Steve, you're onto something, because there is a desire in many elements within the big square building, and those who have influence are saying we have got to just let it go. Let it go. We have Constitution. We have the law. Keep it as it is. We'll have to grandfather everybody who got convicted under this. Even though they were found guilty, we have to let them go. We'll start here fresh. I just think that's the impotent attitude, with not understanding what we as citizens, safety, et cetera, you boys and your team and your officers are out there humping to try and stop this incursion. And then on the other hand, you have elements that go, well, hold on, wait a minute. See, well, are they this and did they this and are they from here? Do they speak that? Forget about it. Just the enforcement of law is the issue.
You see, I wouldn't have a problem if they went and released those that fall under the circumstances of Obrero, where the grand jury declined it, and then prosecutors came back and went to a preliminary hearing to get.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, those people can be released. I mean, because that they were wronged. But to release those that were put in there or pending trial, where the correct process was followed, I think that's where we have an issue with.
Yeah, but I think the response would be those are not proper either. So just lumping it all under some
this is their chance at
generic,
right,
personal bail reform
to do that.
Yep.
So,
and if they do nothing, okay, they'll all get released. Let's do nothing.
well, that's the other part. If they don't do anything,
Yep.
it's an election. Election day is like 10 minutes away, and every incumbent in that big square building, forget the governor, irrelevant. Although he could fix this.
Maybe they're afraid, Rick.
In the moment.
They're afraid. They don't want to rock it. They don't want to worry about something. They're afraid. They figure, maybe we can just hide and lay low, like you just pointed out, until this election comes. Because if I do something or say something and I'm a candidate, maybe it could cost me votes.
Well, I think that everybody who's running against an incumbent, you should wear this every day and speak it and advocate for us. That's all I'm saying. It's amazing. 7:35, we're going to do a 4-hour show today, boys, because we're just getting started. It is the SHOPO Hour on News Radio 830 KHVH. We return in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. It is the SHOPO Hour here on News Radio 830 KHVH. Delighted you're with us. Bobby, Steve, and Mark are in studio. As a matter of fact, program note today, Raider Nation football, Raiders and the Chiefs, 1:45 p.m. today here on your Raider Nation football station. Oh, my gosh, I just rhymed that so well. News Radio 830 KHVH. Wallet Hub goes through analytics, and I have the whole source and everything here that we can cite in a bit. However, in a survey of what they determined to be the safest cities in America, they have a multi-pronged survey requirements, and based on that, they have concluded that the city of, here in Hawaii, Pearl City, let me get the number, Pearl City is ranked 24th safest city in America today. Honolulu, 75th. Bit of context, San Jose, California was ranked 73rd. Just to do a potato. Your reactions to those types of numbers, but importantly as well, the districts here on Oahu and perhaps even Neighbor Island, where there is differentiation in those rates and the strategy to combat crime in certain areas and districts.
I would still say that we are definitely one of the safest cities in the nation. Even though there's an appearance or perception that violent crime is on the rise, which I think we've talked about before. But as far as who was number one in that ranking?
Number one is Columbia, Maryland. And number two is Nashua, New Hampshire, Laredo, Texas, Portland, Maine, and Warwick, Rhode Island were the safest. The least, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Detroit, Michigan, San Bernardino, California. Wow, that's interesting. Fort Lauderdale, and St. Louis, Missouri.
For the bottom numbers, how far down do we go? Are we in the hundreds or where?
182. So 75 out of 182, Honolulu, and 24th of that number, Pearl City. And there's 42 metrics that were utilized. So it was fairly thorough. But interesting that Pearl City, is Pearl City that much safer than Honolulu? And then we're considered the county of Honolulu. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to kind of, for listeners to discern any differentiation, or is that really kind of where we are as a total?
Are they taking this as a total crime or just violent crime? What are they saying?
Well, as I said, there's 42 metrics. 42.
Okay.
I'll have to go to the full report, which
right.
I will have.
I don't think it would surprise anybody that Pearl City is considered safer than, let's say, urban Honolulu. That's not really surprising.
No, Pearl City is a unique area because it's pretty much the center of the island. So, every day you have, thousands of people going through that area, that corridor, right? It's a mixed area too, with residential, shopping centers and whatnot. So
I wonder where in the analytics, Rick, or the metrics, I wonder where Honolulu scored well, and I wonder where it scored low. And I was kind of interested. It's kind of interesting that we're on the same page as San Jose. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons between Honolulu and San Jose. We do it with our police departments, kind of, So.
I have a couple of things. I can't get into each and every one of them.
Yeah, sure.
But it's a number of mass shootings, murders and non-negligent manslaughters per capita, forcible rapes per capita, assaults per capita, thefts per capita, sex offenders per, law enforcement employees per capita, hate crimes per capita. Anyway, there's a whole litany,
right?
Yeah, I would have thought we might have been. Honestly,
But I mean, I know one thing that will drive it. I mean, we have a hell of a lot of property crime here, hell of a lot, and there's no reason for it. But I know the reason. Of course, let them go because for years and years and years, the courts just a property crime, just a property crime. Let them go, let them go. So, to me, the courts are directly responsible for the rise in crime. You put them away, they're not going to do it. But we have a hell of a lot of property crime here, and there's no reason for it.
So would that be the prosecutor's office in conjunction with courts? Because the prosecutors decline to prosecute.
They decline to prosecute some, but, I don't want to put it all on them because we see so many cases just, it goes to court, but we're not getting the result. The judges at probation or they're dropping the case or no charge, something like that. So a lot have to do with the judges also and the courts.
So we're back to no prison space because if we wanted to imprison as a consequence, there's nowhere to go. I don't know the exact number. It's like we're 60% over capacity. And we went through, I don't even know if it's been resolved, the federal consent decree in regard to our prisons here and jails here on Oahu. So, shucks.
Again, somebody not doing their job in that square building, right? For years, right? We knew this.
With our economy so heavily based on tourism and people coming, clearly we want to be aware of those optics. I mean, 75th isn't 200th or it's not, but Rick, when you hear that, you definitely want to make sure that we don't keep going down because, people get a lot of information online and how many people come here first time to Hawaii and maybe they look at that stuff and you wonder if you start going down, if people would select other areas to go. I mean, ultimately, we should want to keep the community safe for the folks that live here, right? That's first and foremost. But then we have to acknowledge that the income and how people make a livelihood is predicated upon people coming to the islands. And hopefully people are aware that it's not always, it's perception that can drive that. So you wonder if the hotel industry, the tourism people are aware of kind of where we're at in this rank and wonder, has that ever been done before? And are we slipping in the ranks? Are we staying the same? You wonder.
I have I have good friends in the hotel business and just spending time with them recently said, well, we talk about the restrictions which have been lifted on travel. And we talk about the devaluation of the yen in comparison to the dollar, less buying power, as the reasons why we're at 20% or so pre-COVID. The real reason they cited? Crime. The Japanese tourists, they're not ignorant. They understand. They see the crime. They hear about the crime. There may be suppression or a reticence to really report on statistical data regarding crime on tourists, but they know. And the feedback is, yes, the other things are obviously relevant, but that's another reason that's cited for Japanese not coming back to Hawaii.
That's scary because that's a segment of our visitors that spend quite a bit of money.
They're the ideal tourists that everybody trumpets about. Yeah. So anyway, I'm not trying, again, not to fixate and belittle or be inflammatory, but it's real. Mm-hmm. And we started with the whole idea of not having representatives in the House and Senate taking this action. And again, the governor could have resolved this in 10 seconds with a signature on a piece of paper. And here it is, just hanging out there. 7:48 in the morning, News Radio 830 KHVH. We've got to get this final break in for this segment with the boys. It is the SHOPO Hour with Bobby, Steve, and Mark. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the best cocktails that you know. We're going to talk more on Topicality in a moment. Welcome back. It is News Radio 830 KHVH. We are with the fellas, Bobby Cavaco, Steve Keogh, Mark Criccio. Take a look at Waikiki for a moment before we continue on. Mark, you mentioned you had some information regarding Pavilion 4.
Yeah, so I was reading something, and I guess that the geo restriction is in place over there, and there's about 50 people that they did some geo restrictions on that, and it's actually working. That the pavilion's pretty cleaned up, and there's this one citizen, John Dushman, in Waikiki. I tell you one thing, that guy, he is on it. Okay, he is relentless with the politicians. He's relentless with the prosecutors, because all these guys out there drinking in the pavilions, this and that, and we hook them up, but they're released, and they go right back. So, anyway, the pavilions cleaned up. Geo restrictions seem to be working. So, what does this tell you? Enforcement works, right? The only thing I don't like about geo restrictions is it just puts the problem someplace else, right? So you got a geo restriction, you can't come to Waikiki for 6 months or a year. Okay, where are these guys going? Do some enforcement, put them in jail, okay? And you could do the restriction also.
The other part that St. Augustine's Church was having a lot of issues, and those seem to be getting under control in negotiation with the church, with Father Lane, free meals, and trying to execute that a little bit better. But the bottom line is just the change of people, attitudes, aggression, violence, and just not caring about anybody else. And so that was tough. Assessment of Waikiki, safe and sound. It's been in place for a short time, but are we hearing from members that there's some improvement, or they're empowered, or fourth watch is increasing, or anything about Wikes?
I know I live in Waikiki, right, Rick? And I see the officers constantly moving around, patrolling. I see the ATV team going around. In fact, just yesterday, going through Fort Tarusi Park at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So there seems to be a good presence, and if there's a presence, they can catch what's going on. So there's definitely the optics. In fact, I was at Fort Tarusi Beach, and I overheard some of the tourists just saying, "Oh, wow, look at the cops over there on the ATVs." And it wasn't the Fort Tarusi police. This was HPD officers on the quads going through past the Army Museum, down the street. And this was before 9 o'clock in the morning. And I know that the optics on that looked really good to the people that were on the beach.
Love it. Well, thank you for that.
One more thing, kind of chime in on this geo restriction. So this is the test for the geo restriction. If one of these guys violate it, I want to see what the judges are going to do. Are they going to let it go, like to do a lot of things, or are they going to hammer them? Let's see what happens with that. Let's see what happens with the enforcement.
We have just a few minutes. Bobby, I'll turn to you, and that is in regard to the chief's public meeting last week. Just a bit of revisitation. Is there anything that you have heard and the sentiments of members about the requirements that he set forth, and speculative a bit about the efforts of the mayor to exert further requirements as well through an ordinance with the council?
Well, I think it's good that there was a venue for citizens to come out and provide testimony on this particular topic. And it would be good that we, or the administration and the stakeholders involved in this, would kind of move and act on it and get this get it going. But whichever way it goes, I think it's new ground for everybody involved, citizens, law enforcement, our members, because it affects everybody. So just looking forward to having it implemented.
It's a good process. Chief Joe has been very open and taking calls and very proactive with this process now that we're at this point. Also, it is 7:56 already. Goodness. Final thoughts. Anything that we did cover to expand? Anything we did not you want to share? And in that amount of time, Mark Critchlow, what say you?
Well, no, to mirror what Bobby's talking about, the chief is coming out with this gun thing, and I totally agree. If you're going to carry a gun, you better be proficient with it. You better, So I could see you need to have a safety course or something like that. Mm-hmm. But what the mayor's doing, I disagree with, where there's going to be certain areas you cannot have a gun. So New York tried to do that with Times Square. A federal judge shot it down. So people don't realize the Supreme Court of this nation, it is your right to carry a gun. Okay, it's your right now. what people don't realize, a driver's license, it's a privilege. So those are two different things now, right? So you just can't say, we're going to go around the law again. This is Supreme Court talking. So you just can't say, this area you can't have a gun. This area you can. Federal judges and Supreme Court say no. So you got to be careful what they're doing.
Well, but we also have state constitutional precepts that can be followed, and what states in the state constitution has direct empowerment and influence on the administrators of departments. So does the word lawsuit mean anything to anybody at this point?
Yeah, I could see it.
See, final thoughts?
Sure. So, Rick, on Saturday evening, there was a get-together at the Ala Moana Hotel. It was kind of on a banquet, awards dinner, really a celebration of a lifetime of service. There were retirees from the Honolulu Police Department, both sworn and non-sworn personnel for the retiring classes of 2019, 2020, and 2021. They were honored and recognized for just an amazing sacrifice to have a lifetime of public service. We just want to share with them that we wish them the best in their retirement. We thank them for their service. We love them, and they're still part of the Blue Ohana.
Amen. Thank you for that very, very much. Bobby.
Going back to the gun with the chief's rules and whatnot regarding that, I think the most important part of that entire situation is going to be what are the circumstances that law enforcement where they can revoke your license. Because it's one thing to have one, but if somehow you go off the deep end or become mentally ill or portray circumstances where now you shouldn't be carrying a firearm, I think that's going to be very important. What can law enforcement do, or when does the chief have the right to revoke your permit to carry? And that's going to be important because life, there's situations in life that augment that. So
I think it's interesting. Whenever we talk about this, I've been doing it for so long, is you'll have those that are on extremes. Extremes, it doesn't matter. You can't control me. I can, I should, I will. And others that say, heavens no, you should never, ever, ever. Just like many societal issues, there is compromising effects that fulfills your right, but then again balances the community. It's that gray area we're in right now,
right,
as to right, wrong, or indifferent. Bottom line, gentlemen, can't wait till the next time.
Thank you
so much.
Thanks,
Thank
boys.
you. That is the SHOPO Hour with Bobby Cavaco, Steve Keogh, Mark Critchio, and I'm delighted to be with you each and every time. We'll get together next week here on the SHOPO Hour. Stand by. It's 8 o'clock.